You know what was cool? Agent Venom. Flash Thompson, the usual antagonist to Peter Parker's school days, now a disabled war veteran, is bonded to the Venom symbiote as part of a military experiment to create the next great American hero, Project Rebirth 2.0. It's a good book, but it got me thinking about the original Venom and how much it changed. We went from an angry man in an alien suit teaming up for revenge on Spider-Man, to Spidey's biggest fan and that same alien fighting for justice in Philadelphia. It's a big jump. Who could have imagined, back when Amazing Spider-Man 300 come out, that this new baddie would spawn a franchise of his own? Every now and then a hero's baddie gets the spotlight, and if that gets popular enough, the villain might become a character in their own right, no longer tied to the hero they were made to fight. They can have their own adventures, independent of the original purpose. If it can happen to Harley Quinn, it can happen to anyone. So it worked for Venom. What if we gave some other Spider-Man villains a shot at independence? I know what you're thinking. But Ryan, Mac already had a solo book once. He was the sinister Spider-Man during Dark Reign, and he went around eating squirrels and killing prostitutes. And you are right, mate. But if we're giving Mac a book, this time we're going to focus on Gargan himself. Maybe the previous book could play into this one, could make an aspect of the story how unhinged he was during his time as Venom, and how he's trying to figure out if that was because of the symbiote's influence, if that's who he really is inside, or if it's a mixture of the two. Having most of Spider-Man's powers means we could get some sick action sequences and a look into the mind of this genuinely mentally unwell man. It could give a bit more depth to the character than the psycho we have now. He did initially agree to be experimented on to fight Spider-Man, who he thought to be a baddie because of J. Jonah Jameson, so there's a spark of a good man in there at least. It's not often brought up, but before Mac Gargan was a mechanical tail-wielding lunatic, he was a private investigator. I'm not sure if he was a very good one, but he was one. And there's the hook. Someone, some mysterious individual, could hire Gargan to investigate a missing person, and that could lead the Scorpion down literally any rabbit hole you want. Another aspect of this madman is he bloody hates being the Scorpion. The reason he hates Jonah Jameson isn't because he gave him superpowers. It's more like he trapped him with superpowers. I think they flip-flop on whether Mac's trapped in his suit or if he's just insane and thinks he is. But either way, the procedure worked, so maybe his investigation could lead him to discovering people trying to recreate him. Breaking into some lab, he could find copycat Scorpion men and women, deformed by the attempts to replicate his transformation. And yeah, Mac could refuse to let others suffer like he has, and he could destroy the lab and put them all out to misery. In doing this, he could realise it was both his psychosis and the symbiote that made him so violent as Venom, and he might finally realise he needs professional help. So we get an explanation for his more extreme behaviour with the Venom suit manipulating his actions. Scorpion gets to do something other than get his face beaten in, and we get a story that explores part of the character that have quite often been overlooked. As of this recording, the man known as Kraven the Hunter, who runs around the Marvel Universe challenging superheroes to throwdowns, is actually a clone. After dying in a really cool story, being resurrected in an okay story, and then dying once again in an alright I suppose story, the original Sergei is once more worm food, as a copy that he commissioned and trained to be worthy has taken his place. The original Kraven was actually pissed off when his family brought him back to life, because he'd already proven himself the apex predator. He had done what he wanted to do with his life, and wanted to just rest. So what could be left now for this new Kraven to claim as his own? Well, what if, like his dad before him wanted to be the perfect predator, the clone Kraven could strive to be the perfect prey? He could provoke superheroes or supervillains into hunting him down. One idea that I had was Kraven could go around fighting several heroes with secret identities like Spider-Man or Daredevil. stalk them, learn the secrets, and then he could announce to the world that he'll reveal all he knows to whoever catches him. That could start this massive scramble where the heroes want him caught by them so he doesn't blab their secrets, while the villains, from lowly thugs like the Looter or the Jester all the way up to crime lords like the Owl or Fisk, could tear the city apart hunting Kraven for the secrets he knows. For example, what if to prove he wasn't lying, he reveals a hero's address, just the building, and then some other baddies could split off to go get revenge. Say he reveals the name of Spider-Man's home building, so a bunch of villains go to burn it down with people still inside. That would give the heroes even more to do while they're desperately trying to catch Kraven. Or he could sweeten the deal. He could get a load of dirt on baddies as well, like he could steal some plans from, like, I don't know, Baron Zemo or something. So both heroes and villains have the same goal of shutting the Hunter up. I don't think Kraven Jr. would want to take his father's title as, like, the Hunter, but he would definitely want to honour him in some way, so I think this works quite well. This book's got a twist, so brace yourself. It's a team book, mate. A team led by my favourite Marvel miscreant, the Shocker. The plot of this one would be Herman assembling this crew of villains for his own agenda, but only baddies who are normal people underneath the masks. I'd start off with a flashback to Herman, back in prison after losing to Spider-Man for the very first time. He's getting roughed up in the yard by a power-dampened Electro who thinks Shocker's stealing his mojo with the name. Suddenly a voice tells Electro to back off. It's Quentin Beck. Electro threatens him too, but he won't touch Beck, because even though the Sinister Six disbanded after the defeat, Dr. Octopus still has plans for them both. Electro leaves and Herman and Beck could bond over being normal men in this world of science freaks. Back in the present, Mysterio could help Shocker escape after a bank heist, and then the two could go and get drunk at the bar with no name. There'd be a bunch of dartboards, all with different heroes' pictures taped on them, and the Spidey one's taken, so they take the X-Men's picture instead, and while they're chucking darts, they lament about how the mutants all stick together, just because they were born with the same problem. And that's when they come up with the idea. Shocker, the leader, Mysterio as the brains, Gladiator for the muscle, Mr. Fear with his panic pellets, the Jester with his tricky gadgets, the masked marauder who can blast you blind, Meteor Man or the Looter if you're so inclined, who pumps himself full of space energy as the trump card, Midnight Man an expert thief, 8-Ball, no seriously, the Ringer, I'm dead serious, these are real. Dread Knight, there's tons. Any supervillain who's just a normal human, no powers, just tech. These villains all have one thing in common. They refuse to let the powered people of the world step on them. Just because they don't have super strength doesn't mean they'll let the Wolverines and Mr. Fantastics keep them down. So I think they should all unionise. Imagine the story potential if Shocker and Mysterio, taking lessons learned from his Sinister Six days, went and recruited some of these like-minded rogues into a new gang where they can help raise each other up to the level of the gods they fight. I think that would be the aim of this group, overcoming odds through teamwork, like what DC does with the Flash's rogues. So I would exclude the more psycho ones like Raoul Bushman or Arcade. I'd have the ones more likely to rob a bank or a museum in a flashy way, and they'd all group together for one great heist. Something that could be fun is them gaining the public's affection, because they're not actually freaks, and we all know how awful Marvel citizens can be. Maybe to escape a fight they throw a load of stolen money into the crowd or something to distract the heroes, and the people treat them like Robin Hood. Or the public could just like how they're pro-human. They could also get unwanted attention from other syndicates and criminals, like the Kingpin, who wouldn't like the group working on his turf, shaking things up. Or maybe they could get approached by like the Friends of Humanity, the pro-human bad guys from X-Men, who could try and twist their base human status into a weapon against mutant kind. Oh. These villains all helping each other out could lead to regular street-level heroes having to partner up as well to stand a chance against this new cohesive unit of criminals, which gives us an excuse for Spidey, Daredevil, Moon Knight and the rest who I don't care about all grouping together. Could make a new Marvel Knights or a new Defenders out of that. If the baddies are the focus though, they're gonna need a good goal beyond making bank and having each other's backs. I reckon they could be able to prove themselves by pulling a belter of a heist, maybe robbing technology from Iron Man or S.H.I.E.L.D. But I think it would be funnier if they ended up pitted against one of the superpowered villains they're trying to prove they're just as good as. Maybe not Doctor Doom, but I'd definitely pit the villains against some absurdly powerful enemy at some point, just so they can prove themselves. Maybe they could accidentally piss off Carnage, or the pro-human message might anger Apocalypse, so they have to survive him and the Horsemen. Of course it wouldn't last, there's no honour among thieves, but it could make for an interesting saga, and it's an excuse to get a load of fan-favourite heroes and baddies into one big fight. And in the end, isn't that what it's all about? People in crazy costumes punching the crap out of one another for our entertainment. Hey, how come comic companies rarely ever use villains to tell more stories anyway? People love watching bastards be bastards. A comic about Mysterio robbing the Mona Lisa or something would be a fun backup. But we only ever hear about this lot when they're specifically fighting a hero. Give me a shocker mini Marvel. Superior Foes of Spider-Man was great. I want to read about the baddies' day-to-day lives, please.